Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name's Acacia. Today I'm going to be talking to you about my NonFiction November TBR. This is a readathon that is month-long in the month of November for NonFiction November. It is hosted by Olive from A Book Olive and Gemma, and I will link both their channels down below in the description box, as well as the announcement videos for NonFiction November 2017. So I have 17 books here. My goal this year, or for the next 2 months, is to read another 60 books to get myself to 200 books, which means I have to read a lot. So 17 books, I have wiggle room for another 5 to 6 books that I'm going to need to read within the month, because I have 17 here. So I've read 1, 2, 3 already. I've read 2 already and I'm in the process of my 3rd. But I need to read about a book a day to keep up with my system. So the way I'm doing it is I'm reading 2 books simultaneously a day. I read 1 book, about 50 to 60 pages of it, and then I finish the 2nd book, and then the next day I finish the book that I read 50 or 60 pages the last day before, and then I start a new book and read about 50 pages of that. So I hope that makes sense. So these are the books. There are 4 challenges, which are home, love, scholarship, and substance. And I kind of cheated on substance because I couldn't find, I didn't have books on substances. So I'm using the word substance as to mean books of substance, which is kind of what nonfiction is anyway, so I'm kind of cheating on that one. But the rest of them, I tried to kind of follow those challenges and see how they go. So let's begin. So the first one I'm going to start with is the substance. So I'll just get those cheats out of the way. The first book is Never Caught: The Washington Relentless Pursuit of their Runaway Slaves, Ona Judge, and this is by Erica Armstrong Dunbar. And this is going to be a book about George and Martha Washington trying to figure out a way to continue to have slaves when it is illegal in their place of residence to have slaves over 6 months, in which they end up having to be freed. So they had one slave that escaped and they tried to track her down, and this is that story. I'm very curious about this. Next we have Antifa. This is the Anti-Fascist Handbook. This is by Mark Bray. I am really curious about the history of anti-fascism and what it looks like and whether or not it is a peaceful or a violent movement, and whether or not it is a danger to society or it is a prevalent need for the current political climate. I am not sure. I want to read and understand my opinions. Then I've read this on and off for a couple of months and I put it on hold for a while, and now I've picked it back up again. This is Science in Wonderland: The Scientific Fairy Tales of Victorian Britain, which is going very nicely with one of the books that I have already in the process of reading, and I will show you that in a little bit. But Victorian is... it's very interesting to read about the Victorian age right after having read for Victober, so I'm really enjoying it and I'm very excited to dive into this. This talks about science and fairy tales and what they were taught as to children in the Victorian era. Then we have The Fact of a Body. This is going to be really hard for me to read, and I know that. This is by Alexander Marzono-Lesniewicz. And I am really nervous about reading this. It's going to be violent, it's going to be scary, it's going to dive into sexual assault, what is right, what is wrong, and the death penalty. I am really excited to read this, but super nervous because I know it's going to be a hard one and stir up a lot of emotions for me, and potentially trigger some memories for myself that I don't like to have triggered, but it's a really important book and I am looking forward to diving in. Then we go into the scholarship category and we dive in first with Mythomania: Tales of Our Time from Apple to Isis, which is a conversation about mythology in our current day and what we believe is myth and what believed is fact and what is real and what is not and what is affecting our culture in our own myths. I have already read this and I would be happy to do a review. Please tell me down in the comments if you'd like to see a singular review or if you just want to see it in the wrap-up. This is What Happened by Hillary Rodham Clinton. I really was impressed by this book and I really enjoyed reading it. I think that Hillary took responsibility for her actions and that was a really great thing to see. Then we have Trainwreck by Sadie Doyle. This is talking about women we love to mock and hate and fear, and why. I am really excited to dive into what it looks like to be a woman in this day and age when you're popular and kind of put onto this situation of being villainized, and I really look forward to looking into that more. This is Beyond the Pale by Emily Urquhart, Folklore, Family, and Mystery of Our Hidden Genes, that talks about people with albinism. I'm very curious about this. I've heard nothing but great things, and I look forward to reading it. Whoops. Delusions of Gender by Cordella Fine. This is supposedly the book to read on gender, and I am very excited to talk about this and look into it and really read and focus on it. I am always curious about gender identity and what it means to be a certain gender and what gender fluidity looks like and all of those things, so I'm very curious about this and excited to read it. Then we go into love. And I defined love as things that I love, basically, just things that I find interesting and love to learn about and love to talk about and love to be a part of. One of them, you're going to be like, really? You love that? And I'm going to be like, I don't love it, but I have a minor obsession with it, and love and obsession are kind of similar feelings, so we're going to go with that. But this one, you guys can understand How to Be a Heroine or What I've Learned from Reading Too Much, Samantha Ellis. This is a nonfiction book talking about all the feminist and heroic women of the reading world. I am very excited to read this. I know it contains spoilers. I am already prepped on the spoiler factor, and I am ready to do that. Then I love Shirley Jackson and I want to read more about her. This is Shirley Jackson, A Rather Haunted Life by Ruth Franklin. This is a biography of Shirley Jackson. I am very excited to read this, especially because I want to know more about what she wrote the Bird's Nest on, and like where she got her information and what she knew about DID. If this is in here, I'm going to be a very happy camper. If it's not, I'll understand, because it's kind of a small part of her writing career and it's not her most popular. But I really want to know. I really want to know. Then we have Where Am I Now? True Stories of Girlhood and Accidental Fame by Mara Wilson. I loved Mara Wilson as a child, and I think that she is a really bold and feminist woman now, and I do love her as well in this time period. So I am very excited to read her memoir and kind of look at her life and her accidental fame. This is the one you guys are not going to be so sure about what to do with. This is Black Dahlia Red Rose. The crime, corruption, and cover-up of America's greatest unsolved murder. Yeah. This is a dark topic. It really shouldn't be in love, but I didn't know where else to put it. I'm sorry. So yeah, this is... I don't know if you guys know about the Black Dahlia. It was a really brutal murder that occurred in Hollywood to a woman who was trying to become famous. And yeah, it's not pretty, and I'm very curious about it, and I've seen a film on it and I've done some research on it in Google, but there's really not a lot of information about who the suspects were, so I'm really curious to see if they've got answers or if they could just give me more information about what they were thinking, because I really want to know. So there's that. Then we go to home. I defined home as either a North American thing or in the home. So only one of these books talks about being in the home and treatment of being in the home, and I'll explain that in a minute. But the rest of them are all about being from North America. our political system and what that looks like. So I have Ta-Nehisi Coates' We Were 8 Years in Power, An American Tragedy, and I got a signed copy, which I'm very happy about. This is going to be really hard to read. It is really beautifully published. It talks about the 8 years in power that Barack Obama was in and what that meant for the Black community and what it means now and what really happened. So I'm excited to read it, but I'm really, really nervous about it, and I'm not sure how comfortable I'm going to feel talking about it after the fact. So yeah. This is the one that I am currently reading, and also the one that talks about in the home. This is Unmentionables by Teresa O'Neill. I am loving this. So this is the book that I'm going to finish today. I am about 245 pages through, so I've only got 100 pages left, thereabouts, something like that. Maybe 60 pages. It's not that much, so I'm gonna finish this really soon. I am loving this, like adoring this. This is fabulous. It is written in a really funny way. It is written in a really intelligent way. It is really honest and upfront. It talks about being a woman in the Victorian era. It is really, really kind of checking me on my whole privilege thing. It's always good to check your privilege and to be like, all right, that was how we were treated before, and now we're this way. I got it. I mean, we've got a long way to go, but now I can do things a lot easier. And like, having your period was just awful, and going to the bathroom was a nightmare, and everything smelled, and it was just really, really, really not a romantic time period at all. And having just read for Victober, I'm like completely thinking of all the books that I read in a very different way and how they were kind of executed. And it's just, it must be nice to live in a world where you never have to go to the bathroom in books. But in the real world, it was very hard. So I am very much enjoying this book. Very much. This one I finished. This is The People Are Going to Rise Like the Waters Upon the Shore. This is a story of American rage by Jared Yates Sexton, and I adored this. This was fantastic. This really talked about the rage that people were feeling on all sides of the campaign during 2016, not just the Trump administration, and also really talked about the rage and anger that is within the American people that we're not addressing and that has really become a problem throughout the entire country. I really adored this. I think it's fabulous. I think it's fantastic. And I think if you have any questions about what happened in 2016 in the election, this is the most comprehensive book to talk about that, that I have read so far. But also, I think it's the most fair, in that it doesn't pick one side. It goes through all the sides, and it talks about Bernie supporters, and it talks about Hillary supporters, and it talks about Trump supporters, and it talks about them all in a really honest and basic way, and it really doesn't give anyone the higher up. Everyone is really held accountable for their rage and their behavior, and that is something that didn't happen during the 2016 elections. People were not held responsible for their behavior towards the opposite side, and that really caused a rip between the communities. So this is fabulous. And then the last book that I plan to read is The Inconvenient Indian, A Curious Account of Native People in North America. This is by Thomas King. I know about what we did to the Native Americans. I am very much aware that our entire country is founded on a genocide. But I need to understand more and what it still looks like and what we really could have done to change it, and whether or not it was something that I know it could have been avoided. Like, I know that, but how much could it have been avoided, and what could we have done differently, and what did we do exactly? Because I want to understand what my ancestors did, and I want to understand what really happened. So I'm scared, but I'm very excited to read this. So there are the 17 nonfictions that I plan to read. I do have room for another 5 to 6 books that I'm going to read throughout November. Whether they're going to be nonfiction or not, I am not entirely sure, but I know I have 17 books to read, which means I have about... I've read 2. I'm on the 3rd, so... 17. I've got 14 books to go, which isn't bad. I can totally do that. So yeah, if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you loved this video, give it a subscribe. I look forward to talking to you guys in the comments below. If you have compliments, quandaries, or questions, I look forward to giving you any answers, and I look forward to your opinions on these nonfiction books. Please let me know if you have read or plan to read any of the ones I have just mentioned. I will see you guys in my next video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!